put together
chilling in the rain, you're some kind of butterfly. Baby, you give me midnight. You whip up my appetite. Don't leave me high and dry. Baby, you give me ice and fire. You're chilling in the rain, you're some kind of butterfly. Don't leave me here high and dry. Oh, 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 oh,
And Nasty. Host Randy Chevrier and Sheldon Napashka guide you through great stories that spark great conversations. Two really big guys talking a big game. The boys are locked in and ready to go. Welcome to the ride.
And welcome to the ride, everybody. Episode 77, coming to you live from Calgary, Alberta on this fine, very summery feeling Tuesday night, which is nice in Calgary. You never know what you're going to get this year, but we are getting a nice little wave of mid-20s. What is that? That's like upper 70s in the States. We'll say it's the perfect 77 degrees for our episode number 77. And I just want to thank you guys again for joining us. We look forward to this all week, Chev and I. This is kind of what we live for, to get on the air, just get a chance to catch up, talk amongst ourselves, talk with you guys, see what's going on in the world. Chev, but I was chatting with you a little earlier today. What's with you and Tuesday migraines?
Man, I don't know. Like, I had a great day at work today. Great day at work, but it seems like every Tuesday I'm nursing a migraine. I had a big work day. I managed to squeeze in a little workout with a run, and I was coming home, and we wear that hot uniform, and a hot day like this, it kind of traps my body heat, and I could feel that something was coming on. I thought I was just overheating. I went to my son's lacrosse game, and slowly the migraine built, and I took some pills. I'm also think I'm feeling the allergies. You know, you talk about how nice it is in summer. Also, there's the pollen that's in the air. My eyes are itchy. So it could be a combination of all that. You know, I took medication, didn't work. And you know me, I've been trying to cut down on the junk food and stuff, and I haven't been eating too much. But whenever I have a migraine, the only thing that seems to work is a bag of chips and a Diet Pepsi. And when I was talking to you just before the show, I was trying to avoid it but I was in so much pain. I walked across the street, went to the Max, bought a big bag of chips, crushed it, which I feel so guilty for. And I've got a Diet Pepsi right here. But guess what? My migraine's clearing up. And I don't know why that happens. I don't know why it's every Tuesday night, but that's what happens. And by the time the show comes, I've tried my best to do all these things to let it go away. And here we are. I'm feeling a little bit better now because I've had some salt and I've had some caffeine and some carbonation.
Two theories on that. One, remember game day, your body would go through some weird stuff and it would do the exact same thing from the time you woke up and tried to get back to bed or jump out of bed earlier than normal or later than normal. You'd have to poop at the same time. Like just all the things your body would go through. This is like your game day, dude. And in terms of the junk food, it's MSG. I think MSG might be one of those secret ingredients like vitamin C or ivermectin or Metamucil or whatever everybody's swearing by these days.
I don't know. Like
MSG has some good things for your body.
I don't know, but the crazy thing is I've been trying to eat well. I've been trying to eat healthy. I haven't been touching sugar. I'm really trying to cut down. So, even today I was talking to Brittany when I came home and, from lacrosse, and I said, yeah, I'm starting to feel this headache. I was sitting outside trying to get some fresh air. And I said, I might need a bag of chips. And, she tries to keep me honest. She's into fitness and stuff. She's like, try not to. And I'm like, yeah, I'll try not to. But then at one point it was just getting too much. I'm like, I got to go back and do what I think works. And it's always seems to work for me. So yeah, the chips and the Pepsi, and I know Pepsi works for the headaches, and the chips maybe replace the salt that I lost. Who knows? But I'm feeling good right now. It's episode 77. We got a lot to talk about. Let's start with the famous 77s to see who is out there, who wore it best. We got a couple of folks out there. We got Trey, who's at the bottom. Is that Luka Jojic? Is that how you say his name? Wasn't he traded from Dallas? Is that that's not even a current picture. Wasn't he traded somewhere? Come on, Trey. We give Trey a list of athletes and he always throws us a curveball. Luka Doncic.
I'm not even following I was going to say, is that a guy from the 90s? Like, I don't even remember this guy, but
no,
I have
he's
heard
a big
that there's
star.
some Eastern Europeans that are like taking over the league right now.
No, he's a big star. He got traded from Dallas, and it was like the biggest. It was this year. He got traded. The GM took a lot of heat, and all the fans hate the GM of the Dallas Mavericks for trading away their biggest and brightest star. And I think he's not with the Lakers now. Is he with Sacramento? Where did they trade him? Trey's going to put it up there. Yeah, he plays with the Lakers. That's right. He went to the traders in one of the biggest sports trades in the last. Yeah, that happened this year. And the fans in Dallas, I don't think they will ever forgive the GM and the team for letting him go. I know that for sure. I don't follow enough basketball to know his stats, but I was following that story, and it was a big, big deal. But you know what is a big deal? We love hockey, and there's two of the greatest 77s right there on the screen, wearing very similar colors. I think Trey put up the Penguins picture for Daryl, but that's Paul Coffey, maybe best known for his time with the Oil, but also with the Penguins, and then Ray Bourque, two of, I would say, the greatest defensemen of our generation growing up. I would say the 80s and 90s. Would you agree, Sheldon?
Oh, you got to be. Yeah, you got to be. I'm a little bit partial towards seeing Coffey in the blue and orange, though. I mean, for me, he was the quintessential Oiler growing up, an offensive defenseman that was just starred in the playoffs. The guy was a stud. But for you, I mean, if you're looking at Bourque, that had to have been like your arch rival back in the day, being a Habs fan, right? Like this guy was a Habs killer.
Oh, absolutely. He was one of the, again, I hated the Bruins, I hate the Bruins to this day. But Ray Bourque is one of those players that you sure respected. He played the game. He was like the anti-Boston Bruin. He actually played the game the way it was supposed to be played, whereas the rest of the Bruins just tried to kill people. You had Ulf Samuelsson. You had not Ulf Samuelsson. Ulf Samuelsson was with the Penguins. You had Cam Neely, Sweeney, all those guys. They were just thugs on the ice. And then you had Ray Bourque, like one of the classiest guys out there, just quietly becoming one of the greatest defensemen in the NHL at the time. And at that time, I think, these two guys, and you're looking at Chris Chelios and Lidstrom, those are some of the best defensemen out there. But in a head-to-head, if you had to pick one of these two 77s, Sheldon, Who do you think is the better guy? Who would you have on your team? Like Ray Bourque won only one championship, and he did it with the Avalanche. Coffee, I believe, has 4 championships. But who would, if you were making a team and you're picking one of these guys, who's your defenseman? Who's going to patrol the blue line? You can only pick one.
You know what? I might be a bit of the homer pick, right? Growing up being a Coffee fan, but for me, 4 championships is not easy to win. And and this guy played at such a high level, and that's absolutely nothing against Cam Neely, but for me, being a great player, you can see that in your stats. But championships, there's certain things that you're bringing to the table, and maybe it wasn't Paul Coffey, right? But I'm sure that he brought something special to that table, to the locker room, that enabled them to win all those championships. So I'm going to take Paul Coffey.
Yeah, and I guess I know you said it's not easy to win four championships, but it might be a little easier when you have guys named Gretzky, Tikkanen, Messier, Curry, Coffey, Fuhr.
You don't know. Maybe those guys were nothing without their back end being covered, or a guy that could pass the puck, move the puck up.
Maybe, and I agree. I agree with that take.
Paul Coffey wasn't a big part of what they were able to do transitioning up and down the ice.
I agree with that take. I love Paul Coffey. I think he's a great player. I actually had lunch with him once. I did an event at TELUS. He's a great guy. Told me a story about his son. So, we had a great chat. But I would have agreed with your take, and I would have even thought, based on just not being like the NHL statistician that some sports fans are, I would have just thought anecdotally that Paul Coffey would have been the better of the two in the head-to-head. But Ray Bourque played 1,600 games, and Paul Coffey played 1,409. So very similar. Ray Bourque has 1,579 points, and Paul Coffey has 1,531. So they're very close, but plus minus. I was
just going to say that's the one that's going to decide this.
Ray Bourque 527 plus 527. Paul Coffey plus 298.
Wow.
Huge difference here. Huge difference. And game-winning goals. Who would you think had more?
I would guess Paul Coffey, but I think I guessed wrong.
You guessed wrong. Ray Bourque, 60 game-winning goals. Paul Coffey, 43. Now, probably because Gretzky was scoring all the game winners, but that's still a pretty impressive stat. And I would have never thought that Ray Bourque was that offensively gifted. Like, I knew he was a great defenseman. I watched him growing up. He was solid. He was, he's the captain of the Bruins. He was the backbone. But some defensemen are very good because they're great defensively, and they're not necessarily point guys like, the Paul Coffeys, the Lidstroms, the Cale Makars of modern day. I didn't think Ray Bourque was that great. And now looking at his stats, it's like, yeah, it's a lot closer than I would have thought. And if I'm putting my money on someone right now, just looking at this and having grown up watching him and just how consistent he was and how great he was for the Bruins, I'm gonna take Ray Bourque over Paul Coffey.
You know what? I can't argue with your logic, man. You know me, I like that logic.
Any other 77s?
Bruno's rating, Lyle Alzado, it's a great defensive tackle for the Oakland Raiders back in the day. I think I even read his book, but he was like the just a stud defensive tackle. Loved Lyle Alzado. I think he was part of that line with Howie Long.
Yeah,
maybe
that was back
before him.
That was back in the day when they ate steroids for breakfast, right? Like breakfast, lunch, and supper.
For sure.
Yeah, played for John Madden, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I think so. What about for the Stampeders? Do we have John Helton? Because John Helton played defensive tackle in the CFL for 14 years.
Have you seen John Helton in the last few years?
I have not seen him in first of all,
he looked like he's still. Last time I saw him, it was about 4 or 5 years ago. Looked like he could still play. The guy's like 6'4", stud, perfect shoulders, V shape. He still walks like an athlete.
He was a big
for those years that he played. But
he was a big dude. He was born in 1947. That's crazy. So, so he's 77 years old. He played for both the Stampeders and the Blue Bombers. Yeah, played 14 years. He's in the Hall of Fame. I believe he was TSN's top 50 defensive tackles, and there was no other defensive tackle ahead of him. Yeah, just a stud, just a huge stud, you know. So yeah, for the Stampeders, that's the guy. So 77th episode, that means we've had 77 poems, if not more. You guys, thank you for joining us every Tuesday night. We definitely get a buzz from hanging out with you, from talking with you, reading your comments. But I think now it's time for some 300-pound poetry.
And now, 300-pound poetry with Chevy and Nasty.
We're the 300-pound poets, and tonight we were fashionably late. Sometimes our poems are weak, but sometimes our poems are great.
The Edmonton Oil take the lead in the series. What powered this remarkable turnaround? We have so many theories.
Although Elks may never return to the old Eskimo name, President Chris Morris declares their history will no longer be hidden in shame.
Men's mental health movie night was even better this year, with more men filling the theater. The mission has never been so clear.
And do we really need a king to talk about GST and housing tax, while President Trump's friendship with Putin is starting to show some cracks?
We are Chevy and Nasty. We brighten up your Tuesday night life like a slap to the face from Emmanuel Marson's wife.
Dude, perfect timing today. That was awesome. Good poem, Chev.
Yeah, we finally ended it right on time. A slap in the face from the president of France's wife right as he's getting off the plane. You want to talk about this, Sheldon?
Well, just look at that. That was what a spectacle seeing behind the scenes of relationship. You think about all these presidential figures, but what's the stress that's going on inside the plane? What were they talking about right at that moment? You saw the clip, did you not, Chev?
Yeah, I saw the clip. You see
them delaying up there at the plane, and all of a sudden there's this two-hand followed by one hand forearm shiver to the face, and it puts clearly some domestic tension going on there on the plane. And I can't imagine what kind of tension that those guys are going through on a daily basis. See that happen at that high of a level in public like that. Oh my God. That was like,
well, she's probably mad at
the Kardashians any day.
Maybe she's mad at him for hiding the alleged bag of cocaine back in France when he was sharing it with the allegedly sharing it with the French prime minister the German
chancellor. Maybe he's holding out on her. I don't know.
Where's the cocaine? Pam. But yeah, no, it was more of a shove than a slap. It was kind of a Marshawn Lynch stiff arm. But yeah, he's backtracking. Said they were just playing. Some baby games in the airplane. Maybe they're very touchy feely, and she just said, "Oh, get out, you."
I've been touchy feely, and I've been mad at before, and those are two very different looking things. And that one looked like to me that there's a little tension in the air on that night.
Yeah, there's maybe a little tension in the air. Who knows? But guys, thanks for joining us. Let's read some of these comments. Kurt Panyo, who's joining us from Saskatchewan, says, from a diehard lifelong Bruin fan, loving the convo. Kurt, I love that you're here. Don't love the Bruins. Bruno said movie night was the best. We're going to talk about it next segment. We're going to talk about the movie night and just how fun it was. Jamin throws on a 77. Peter Klima. No, Peter Klima. He was in a 77. Wasn't he a 9? I don't know. Maybe he was. But guys, tonight we have lots to talk about, but I think, Sheldon 2 weeks in a row wearing his Oiler jersey. I saw Trey wearing his Oiler jersey. I should have put on my Oilers t-shirt that was gifted to me by my girlfriend, who's a huge Oilers fan.
Bad luck. No, true fans only. True fans only.
And I am a true fan in the playoffs. But yeah, another victory for the Oil tonight. Sheldon, did you watch the game, first of all?
No, I did. I was sitting here in this room. I was so busy. I couldn't even take the time off, but I had it running in the back. And every time the Oil scored, I'm back there rewinding the play. And I mean, the game takes you twice as long that way, but I listened to it. And I'll tell you what, Skinner, once again, 1 goal or less, in the last 5 games. I mean,
Man.
incredible. And every time he lets one in, I get nervous that it's about to open the floodgates. But the dude's been solid. But
Hero to zero, hey? Or zero, I guess 0 to hero. Yeah, he sure is looking good.
when he's dialed in, he's as good as anybody that's out there. You just didn't know, and it wasn't just Skinner. You didn't know what Skinner was going to be showing up in the playoffs. And against LA, yeah, it looked bad. Those first few games, it looked bad, but so did the rest of the club, right? And you knew that something was going to have to turn, and the guys were going to have to figure it out. But they're all pros, and they've been there before. Florida came in flying. Edmonton had to work a little harder to get it rolling, but they are looking really good right now.
And it's crazy how this kind of looks eerily similar to last year. He was having a hard time, struggling a little bit against Vancouver. He takes a seat, gets back in, and then he starts rolling, right? And I don't know if that's the turnaround. I don't know if it's the addition of some grit with Evander Kane, activating Corey Perry a little bit more. Like, yeah, he's been taking a couple of penalties, but for me, especially in this series, and I've stood by it all year. I think anytime we've talked about unsung hero or even the Oilers in general, the guy that seems to always stick out for me, of course, you got Connor McDavid. He's such a presence on the ice. Of course, Leon Draisaitl is dangerous anytime. But man, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, I believe 2 points tonight. I believe 3 points the other night. Like, he is having a series and a half. And, he's being rewarded, and he's rewarding the team with his great play. And it's fun to watch. The setup tonight on the Draisaitl goal, everyone in the building thought he was going to shoot, and it was a perfect give and go. He gave it right back to the machine, who scores that short angled goal that he always happens to score. And man, they look on. Like, they lost that game the other night. I remember the other night, the only one that Dallas won. And I wasn't able to watch that game. And I heard, like, you guys were on the text line, and man, you were just loving Skinner's play, and Trey was all over. I remember you guys gave me the play-by-play, and then in the third period, it fell apart. That was a game where they took like 3 penalties in a row. I think Perry took one, Kane took one. But besides that breakdown for about a period and 2 minutes, the second period into that third period, they've been playing lights out against Dallas. And I don't think Dallas has an answer.
And I don't think they do have an answer. I mean, if you take a look at the way this playoffs is going, you have 2 clear-cut teams that are prepared to move forward. I know he's trying to show me something. I can't quite see what that stat is.
Very small.
But you've got Nugent Hopkins.
I think he was tied, was it with Gretzky for the most?
Oh, yeah, longest multi-point streak to start conference finals. Ryan Nugent Hopkins is now on a 4-game streak. A second, he's tied for second with Craig Janney, Cam Neely, Wayne Gretzky, a bunch of other big names. But there's only one guy in front of him, and that is Wayne Gretzky. When he had a 5-game streak in the 1988 conference final. So, like, what Nuge is doing right now is historic. Like, to go on this kind of a tear in the conference final, you need your heroes to rise up and be the heroes for the team. Whether it's your goaltender, whether it's a great player, but really kind of secondary scoring in a lot of ways, just to get this hot and make his teammates that much better. It's 7 primary assists that he's had so far in this series. That means that he's got the puck. He's seeing the ice. He's making good decisions, and you don't have a lot of time to make decisions in the playoffs, and they're paying off for him. So his game is just dialed up into a whole new level right now. It's exciting to see. Yeah,
we can't forget that this guy was a first overall draft pick. Like, he was Connor McDavid before Connor McDavid was Connor McDavid, right? Yeah. Like, no one gave him that much hype. He didn't have maybe as much hype as like the next great player, but he was.
You look great in the World Juniors that year, though.
Absolutely. And one of the big questions next game going to the Oilers as they try to seal up the series and get ready for either Florida or Carolina, one of the things is the fate of Zach Hyman. He got injured, upper body injury, taken out of the game. Evander Kane was being looked at. So guys getting banged up. The nice thing about the Oilers, as this playoff season goes deep, they proved that they have a lot of depth. And, their second line guys, you can make a line with Corey Perry, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, and Evander Kane, and that's a first line on any team. Sure. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And that's with a 41-year-old Corey Perry. I mean, what this guy's been able to produce for the team, I don't think he did put up these kind of stats during the regular season at all. But with his kind of grit and his kind of know-how to get it done in the playoffs, you're right. He's taken a couple penalties that he shouldn't have. But if you watch what led up to them, he's pushing the boundaries. He's testing the boundaries. And as long as Skinner and their defensive structure stand strong, then he can get away with it. It's going to do you more good than harm.
So are you getting excited? Because when we started the playoffs a few weeks ago, we said it. We said, we don't watch the regular season too much. And that slow build up when the Oilers when it was looking bad for the Oilers and the Jets were looking like they were on top, it was like, okay, we got a team going. But the way this played out, where all the Canadian teams getting eliminated and the Oilers clawing their way back really to the top, and they're playing against the good. Are you excited?
Yeah, I am. In fact, it's is 2.0 of last year, and you just hope that the lessons learned and the hunger can get you through to that next level, because it would be epic for the Oilers to win this year. I think Canada needs it. Alberta certainly does. It would be awesome. But I'll tell you what, Florida Panthers scare me, man.
They do.
As dominant as the Oilers are looking right now, Florida is a dominant hockey team.
Yeah.
They're playing Carolina, who's had an amazing regular season, and they kind of breezed through the first few rounds of the playoffs. But funny thing, I think Trey was saying this earlier, that since they won the cup, I think in 2004, or got to the cup, I can't remember if they won it. I think they won in 2004.
Yeah.
Since then, they are in conference finals. They're like, or 2006. They are 1-12. Like they'd been swept in 3 straight conference finals, and this is their first win. 1-15. There you go, 1-15.
That was the first game to stay alive. Can they do it again tomorrow night? I don't know. Florida, like you said, they scare me. Bobrovsky, I mean, he is a solid goaltender, but I'm looking forward to Stanley Cup 2.0, like you said, repeat of last year. We have to wait and see, but maybe by next week, when we come to Tuesday night, we're going to be in the next round, the final round of the Stanley Cup playoffs. Guys, we're going to take a quick break. Remind you that you can follow us on all our socials. Please like and share our reels. We shared some really cool stuff from the men's mental health movie night. If you have an opportunity, retweet or repost on Instagram or Facebook some of the stuff we're putting out there. Let's spread the word. The movement is growing, but the show hopefully is growing as well. If you love it, maybe some of your friends do. You can find us on all socials, from Facebook all the way down to Spotify. We'll take a quick break. We'll have a snack. I'm going to have a drink of my Pepsi. And when we get back, we'll talk about that men's mental health movie night and what it was. See you in a minute.
Performance Freight Management is a global logistic freight shipping company that will handle the entire shipping process for any package to any country. Whether it be a simple truck shipment from your office to Toronto or your company importing generators from China, PFM Freight handles it all. We have the expertise and technology to handle any shipping requirements. Skip the guesswork and let us take the shipping pain off your plate.
Do you want your business to be known? YYCCalgaryBusiness.ca is Calgary's only online media platform that gets you noticed. Short-form video content is rapidly taking over as the most effective way to engage your audience. Whether you're being interviewed on a vodcast, sharing a sizzle reel, or even hosting your own show, there is one place you can publicize your business. We want to tell your story and introduce you to our network of empowered business owners and leaders right here in Calgary. Isn't it time you took your digital game to 11? Call us or email us now.
Well, we talk about all kinds of things on the ride with Chevy and Nasty, and that was fun to talk a little bit of hockey, talk about some of the great 77s. Each week we try and strike a balance between what's topical for, I guess, us, what we're paying attention to, what's happening in the world, and what's going on. And Sheldon just made it back. But
well,
yeah,
Sheldon,
Sheldon,
I thought we were throwing on that video.
no, yeah, I was just saying that that was a fun segment.
Yeah.
We're not hockey experts, but to talk about some of the guys and just kind of shoot it about two guys that we might never talk about any other time, like Raymond Bourque and Paul Coffey, just because it's episode 77. That was fun. Paying attention to hockey for me is fun. Having something to talk about with my buddies. This is, the talk around the bar stool that we don't get to do sometimes because, we're so busy. But to watch the game and we discuss, but we also said we love the fire. We love the campfire. And that was the mission when we started the ride with Chevy and Nasty. It was to talk about things and to bring out things that are important to us, not just the surfacey things like the sports and what's happening in the world of politics, but some of the things that really going on in our lives. And as we built this thing from the ride with Chevy and Nasty, we've assembled a really awesome team and friends with Daryl McAvina and Trey and some other good folks helping us out. Bruno's out there and a few others, and it's been great. And last year, we took a stab and a shot in the dark when we tried to kind of refocus our energy into our local community. And we started with the men's mental health movie night, the first annual. We thought no one would show up, but some people did. In fact, 100 people did. And we decided to repeat it this year. So for those of you that weren't there, before we get into it, we want to show you a little bit of what our men's mental health movie night looked like with the mental health movement. So let's take a look at this.
That is so awesome. You know what my takeaway from that video was? One, that was super cool. There's just a bunch of dudes hanging around, stuffing their faces with awesome food. And somehow along the way, I didn't see that dog. Did you see the dog there?
Yeah, so the dog was there with the fellow from the Canmore River Adventures, and that was Dino Mariani. A very interesting story that we can share publicly. Dino is the uncle of a firefighter that I went to class with, Nick Welson. And Nick was a great guy in class. We sat together, and Nick's dad was a firefighter, Claire Welson. But Claire is married to, so Nick's mom is married to Dino's sister. Okay. And I didn't know this. So Dino approached me last year, and this is public knowledge. Dino approached me last week. He's like, I want to sponsor your thing. He's like, I'm Nick's uncle, and I want to get behind this. Whatever it is, I need it. And he just stepped up to sponsor right away. I never met him before. He owns Canmore River Adventures. He does a lot of work with people with mental health issues and PTSD. And when he approached me, he said, you probably know of my family's battle with PTSD and all this stuff. And, I kind of glanced over it when he wrote me, and I didn't really know what he was talking about. And my buddy Nick never told me, but it turns out that Dino's brother, my friend Nick's mom's brother, his brother was murdered in Calgary. There was a big murder in 2013. It was a brutal murder. Two skinheads beat to death.
I saw that.
My friend Nick's uncle, Dino's brother, in a back alley at North Hill Mall.
Like one of those crime. I saw. I had no idea that was him. That's been played on American networks and everything. That was just a crazy story.
Yeah,
wow.
and so he is dealing with PTSD, or their family is, as a family. The ripple effect has been huge. And so what he does is he does these river adventures, but he also makes sure to take special care of anybody suffering. And he said, if we know of anyone that's having a super hard time, mental health issues, he'll take them down the river, no problem, and just try to help them reset their brain. So I thought that was an amazing connection. You talk about the fireside chat. You never know what people are dealing with. The people that showed up, 200 people this year from 100 last year, 200 people. You saw just a snippet in that video there of all the people that showed up, not only to watch a movie. The movie was kind of the icing on the cake, the end of the night, but the important stuff happened beforehand, the fellowship, the festivities, the food, and then to listen to you tell your story. I got so many great reviews from people about they just loved the Mr. Toopsteak story. Like a lot of good stuff happening there. And then Brent Cron and obviously Brett Gardner. We did it in 2 theaters. It had to be very well executed to run off without a hitch. I'm not saying there were no hitches, but it was a damn good night.
We went through 200 men in that small theater. With countless speakers. I mean, we're going speaker to speaker, to giveaway, promotion to promotion. And at the end of the night, when the movie started, we were 10 minutes off schedule. Over 3.5 hours. That was insane. And I know Daryl McAvina is Performance Freight Management, which is a logistical specialist company, but the logistics of pulling off that night, hats off to Daryl and all the volunteers that helped it out, because this year was big. There was literally a dozen volunteers running around making sure the trains were running on time, and making sure that everybody got a chance to enjoy the night. Like, it was really clear everybody was on time. People knew when they could talk, knew when they could eat. I think guys loved the conversation. I don't know if I can jump in here. One of the conversations that they just showed it, Trey just pulled that put the slide up there with the speakers, right? There's me, there's Brett Gardner, Brent Cron. What's the thing about a goalie? You never know what a goalie looks like because they always have their masks on. Brent Cron is a fascinating story, guys. He was back in the early 2000s. He was the Flames first round draft pick. I think
Dallas Stars, I believe. Dallas Stars.
No. He's drafted to the Flames.
Oh, Flames. Okay.
Yeah, he's drafted to the Flames. He was 8th overall. As it turned out, he became like the number one bust of a first round pick ever by the Calgary Flames. And he owns that. And he's got a great attitude about it. He's like, listen, I didn't ask them to draft me first round. Number one pick in the draft that year was another goaltender. And same thing. That guy never played a game in the NHL. Brett at least got one period. But here's what shocked me is at one point I'm walking by Daryl talking to this massive dude, an inch taller than me. And he pulls me over. He goes, here, I wanted to introduce you to Brent. I'm like, hey, nice to meet you. Who are you with, Brent? Start a conversation. And Daryl's like, no, dude, that's Brent Cron. Holy crap, that is the biggest goalie I've ever met in my life. The guy's got to be 6'6". He's got shoulders like mine. He looks like any former defensive tackle you've ever met. And I'm like, that is what they were looking for in goaltenders. A massive dude from a small town. But then when he gets up there and talks about his 9-year pro career, I loved it because he kept bringing it back to the small town Manitoba where he's from, where his grandpa taught him to drive grain truck at 8 years old, driving a stick, like a 3-on-the-tree stick shift.
Yeah.
Dude's just the most relatable guy I've ever met. What an amazing story. And to hear him speak, dude, I was getting goosebumps. And I was nervous about to go up to follow him. But listening to his story, I was like, dude, you know what? This whole night is about average guys with average stories that have gone through some dramatic things. And
But I was going to say, don't sell yourself short too, because you resonated with a lot of fellows out there too, whether they were football fans or, Western Canadian guys that grew up either, in Saskatchewan and Manitoba, or even here in Alberta. Your story resonated with a lot of guys, and they sure appreciated the drive and the resilience it took, from what you had been through in college to what you went through in the CFL to kind of that moment where you're like, man, I am selling hot dogs to these guys and I played in front of 100,000 people 2 years ago. That's nuts.
And then selling hot dogs to guys to the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Yeah.
Yeah. And it really resonates. So I thought overall, the evening was fantastic. The food was amazing. Thanks to Guys Cafe. The hospitality at the Cochrane Movie House, thanks to Hal Wolf and his staff, they were fantastic. I also want to do a big shout out to all the sponsors. I'm not going to list them all because it's going to take about 10 minutes, but so many people stepped up. And as I said, we don't like our mental health movement that we started. Maybe it'll be a charity, maybe it'll be a nonprofit, but right now it's just an idea back behind the hearts of some good guys like yourself, myself, Trey, Daryl. We're not issuing tax receipts. So for all the prizes and the sponsorship, it was just guys saying, we're there for you. And we had a lot of invitees as well. Like you had a Brothers Path show up. We had Safe Canada, which was supporting all first responders everywhere. Justin Remaransing. We had so many people there that supported men and supported the evening. So it was really neat to see. And then, as I mentioned before, after all that was done, after all the speaking, the fellowship, we wrapped it up with a nice, almost 3-hour movie. And I didn't get to watch the movie. Because I was running that day. We could talk about that later. But what did you think of potentially the final installment of Mission Impossible?
Okay, before we go there, let's ask what I thought about as the night went on. You were introducing me. I was introducing Brent Cron. And then all of a sudden you were off the table and I'm like emceeing the rest of the night. Like, holy crap. Like, and you guys watch the show. Chevy's the guy that can talk all night long. And suddenly I'm like, Sheldon, you're emceeing. I'm like, where's Chev? He's coaching football. What do you mean he's coaching football? And then, the whole story comes out that the Mavericks went on this amazing run and that your Bantam team, Spring midget was in a playoff game that night, and you had to take off, and you were gone for a few hours right after you introduced me. So, did you not catch the movie? Like, when did you get back to the theater?
So I got back to the theater at.
How did that night go? Because you did get back to the theater. I saw you at the end.
Just so you know, my day started at 5 a.m. I left work 2 hours early to go pick up the Spalumbo's prize package from Spalumbo's. Thank you, Tony Spaltini. I got caught in traffic on my way home, trying to make sure I had everything for both the night, so to dress up for the night, and for football practice. Ran there. I got there at about 6:10. I know Daryl referenced it earlier on. We're Chevy. I got there at 6:10, dropped off the sausage, did a little bit of schmoozing, tried to shake some hands and thank some people for showing up. We started off the night at 7 o'clock. I introduced you to the one theater. I introduced you in the second theater. By 8 o'clock, I was on the road ripping back to Calgary to coach the midget Mavericks playoff game. I left field at about 11, probably 11:10, ripped back to Cochrane, and then I waited in the lobby till the movie went out, and I just shook more people's hands. And then to top it all off, because I'm that kind of guy, instead of waking up early in the morning to go to Red Deer, I figured I might never wake up after this day. I decided to drive to Red Deer that night, and I got to Red Deer at 3:30 in the morning. So
after the movie?
Yeah, right after the movie.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was. And then the next day we drove to Drayton Valley just to add a little bit more mileage on the wheel. So yeah, it was a busy time, but I am so glad I was part of that night. It was also so glad that I got to coach in the final game of the Mavericks, not just to be on the field with the kids I've been coaching all year. That was super important to me, but also it's the last time I'm coaching on the field with my son Brett at the same time. Yeah, and it was his last game. And you know what? I was feeling torn leading into the week. Torn with, I had both these events potentially coming to heads with each other. And, you talk about mental health, you talk about, weighing things and things weighing on you. That was tough for me, Sheldon. It was so tough.
Was it as tough as a throwback to the conversation when we had the Chevy and Nasty show on the Fan that night? We talked about, okay, your wife's due date is right during the playoffs. What do you do? Right?
Yeah.
What do you do? Because I'll tell you what, when you'd left, I was like, really? Oh, that's interesting. I'm like, no, I think he should probably stay at I think he should stay at the event. Then I thought about it. No, I'm coaching not just my son's team, but the relationship you form with those young men during the course of the whole year, to abandon them. Now, suddenly, it's not a selfish endeavor. It's a part of a big thing that everybody's been working so hard for. But how do you leave those kids behind? And I'll tell you what, Chev, I think where I came out is I probably would have done the same thing you did. In fact, I'm going to give you mad props for even coming back, because I think some people would have did their part, gone back to Calgary, and then licked their wounds with their team for the rest of the night. But you actually did come back just to shake hands. I thought that was a good move on your part. I'm not sure I would have done it. I hope I would have done it.
I appreciate that. And in the podcast you did with Daryl that interviewed Brett Gardner, he talked about these compressive forces. And that really resonated with me, where so many times in my life and in our lives as men, you feel the draw to be in 2 or 3 places at once, and you feel the pressure, and you also feel the anxiety for letting people down.
Yeah.
And when I found out we were going to have a playoff game that was the same day as our men's mental health movie night, and I never had the thought to look ahead in the playoffs to see what day the game was and maybe discuss with Daryl an alternate date because we had picked movie house. I was feeling so stressed, and I talked to Daryl before I knew the time of the game about some different strategies. And part of me was like, and it's what I said when I introduced you. The night was not about me or my story. It was really to give back to the people that were important to me and the men in our community. So I honestly felt that if push came to shove, the night was the give. But me inviting people to have a night for themselves was not about me saying, hey, look how great this night is.
You're a block in the chain of a bunch of great people doing a lot of great stuff.
Yeah.
And having great conversations.
And it's exactly what you said about that relationship with those kids. Like some of those kids, it's the last time I coached them. Some of these guys I coached for 2 years. This is their last time in spring ball. And the one thing about this movement is that men show up for men, and not just adults, but you got to start showing up for men when they're young, so they get the example of showing up for others. And so really, if push came to shove, I probably would have been at the game first and showed up the event. I'm glad everything worked out. And sometimes in life, things do work out the way it did, with a little bit of effort and a little bit of mileage and a little bit of fatigue. But I'm so glad that I made the effort for all the things that were important for me, and I was able to line them up. And the night was fantastic. The game, although we lost, was a really nice experience, because to be able to console those kids that were crying on the field because they knew that they weren't going to be playing Mavericks football anymore, I didn't actually expect that. I expected to be there for them, coaching through their playoff game. I didn't expect to see the amount of kids and the feelings that they had. And some of, like, we had our quarterback pulled halfway through the game. He was kind of, he was losing his mind. He didn't know why he was pulled. We weren't playing well. He was upset. He was doing the negative thing. He's a kid. I grabbed him. We had a 5-minute talk. I told him, I said, Christopher, we need you ready, because you don't know what's going to happen. And you got to be a leader even when things are tough. And this was right after halftime. Well,
especially when things are tough.
The very next play, the backup quarterback goes in. He gets knocked out of the game. Starters back in. And, so that was a moment I had to be there for. And maybe he remembers that moment next time he's faced with that situation, but someone had to be there for him in that moment. And I felt like the night couldn't have been, it wasn't perfect because we didn't win, but it sure was a great evening. And I was so happy to be back, speaking with the guys after they left the movie, because there were guys that stayed there for another probably hour after the movie let out. Like, some guys had to leave, but it was good. It was a fun night. Again, props to Daryl, because as you said, Daryl put a lot of it together, but props to everyone that showed up, from friends
Daryl put it together, but I was honestly, like, you talk about team and teamwork. I was inspired by the volunteers from that night. It really was. This was a first for, like you said, humble beginnings from last year. This year was awesome. As you can see from even that video that got put together afterwards, I thought that video was top shelf as well. But I think with that, Chev, I think we're going to take a break right now. Once again, guys, thanks for watching. We're going to take a quick break. If you haven't done it already, make sure you hit that like button. Hit the share button, do anything you can just to help. Those things really help our algorithms to get more viewers for the next time. It really does make a difference. When we come back, guys, a little bit of studs and duds and whatever else. I think we're going to bring on young Trey. Young Trey had a big day, a big event today. He was experiencing some pressure in competition. We'll talk about that and whatever else comes to mind in our last segment here on The Ride.
Performance Freight Management is a global logistic freight shipping company that will handle the entire shipping process for any package to any country. Whether it be a simple truck shipment from your office to Toronto or your company importing generators from China, PFM Freight handles it all. We have the expertise and technology to handle any shipping requirements. Skip the guesswork and let us take the shipping pain off your plate.
Do you want your business to be known? YYCCalgaryBusiness.ca is Calgary's only online media platform that gets you noticed. Short-form video content is rapidly taking over as the most effective way to engage your audience. Whether you're being interviewed on a vodcast, sharing a sizzle reel, or even hosting your own show, there is one place you can publicize your business. We want to tell your story and introduce you to our network of empowered business owners and leaders right here in Calgary. Isn't it time you took your digital game to 11? Call us or email us now.
I'm glad we did that too. Just talk about the night and kind of put a bow on it, because a lot of people that were part of that were important in that night, got some of the acknowledgement from us that we didn't really get to give. I felt like we were at a wedding, your own wedding where everyone wants to talk to you. And if you give them more than 5 minutes, you're going to miss the wedding. And that's kind of how I felt on top of all the driving. But there was some people that want to volunteer for next year. They want to be part of it. A lot of firefighters from the Calgary Fire Department that were there in attendance thought, man, we need this for first responders. There were people from the business world, from the rodeo world, hockey world. And I'm going to say this last thing. This is a cool thing I forgot to mention to you, and we'll move on from it. But it was really neat to bring a room of men together, that many of whom were complete strangers and many of whom thought was a room full of complete strangers, and make connections. There was a fellow there who I coached his son way back when he was in grade 10, and we won a city championship. And then with his son, we coached the Mavericks a few years ago, and now his son coaches my son. And that's Eric Beckler, and his son is Ethan Beckler. And his son is like a nuclear physicist, and he went back to teach math at St. Francis. And then there was my son's hockey coaches, my son Kyle's hockey coaches. He had the same coaches for the last 4 years. One of them is Nathan Cunningham, who played UFC football for Bruno. And Bruno told him, was kind of giving him the skiing as a career. And Nathan became an Olympic bobsledder after that.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So he coaches my son the way, and his group of coaches coached my son over the last 4 years the way I wish to coach other kids. True mentorship. And two of these coaches show up, and lo and behold, they run into Joe Stambini, who was their teacher when they were at Francis. So it was a room full of connection and reconnection, and I love that about the night. It was really a nice give back to our community. And I'm sure you had that too. I remember some of the stories you told me even last year of the guys that came in who connected with you and Jamin and all them guys. it was super fun to watch. There was some magic in the air for sure.
I'll take it. Like, I enjoyed the conversations, and yeah, I ran into a guy I went to high school with, played football with him. Now he's like a Hall of Fame rodeo clown, retired. Ran into another guy from Leoville, Saskatchewan, because I was talking about small town Saskatchewan, right? What it's like to come from a town of 16 people and dream of making it in the CFL or in pro sports. There was a guy that was probably about 4 years younger than me, but from Leoville, literally even more remote than where I'm from. But we used to play volleyball and basketball against each other's schools. But my biggest thing wasn't just the stories that my engagement. My biggest thing was watching everybody else. I'm a watcher.
Yeah.
You know, like when I get into that room, I would kind of, okay, I'll take my space back in the corner for a little bit. I'll just look around. And I watched I watched the engagement going on and all the great conversations. And, you know, and I didn't feel like, I was speaking and all this stuff. That was busy. And it was also nerve wracking at times. But the show wasn't about us, right? It was, for me, I was just inspired by the volunteers and by the great network of men that were there and the energy that filled the room. Throw away the movie. The movie was just a cherry on the top. When you watch back that highlight clip of what we showed, where everybody's just laughing, having fun, talking, and some of the conversations were just fun catching up. Some of them were super deep to the point where I can't have those conversations every day of my life, but they're important to have on nights like that. It was truly an amazing event, and I was inspired every moment of the night.
Yeah, and a lot of quiet, positive feedback from people that wouldn't stand on the table. They're not gonna tweet or social media just how great it was for them to be part of the mental health movement, but the personal texts about some of the things we spoke of, how it related to them and how it spoke to them was great. So with that, we'll put it to bed for now. We're looking forward to next year and maybe a few other events. We're getting asked to do more events. So maybe Todd, you couldn't be there for this one, but we'll get you in at our next event. Maybe it's going to be something a little different than a movie night. But now we got to get the ride back on track, because we got to get to the destination, and the destination is the end. And we only get to the end if we go through the mountain of studs and duds we have lined up for you. So Trey,
I'm going to put this offer out there. Why don't you pull the stud and I'll do my dud? I will shorten this down a little bit. My stud was a little bit negative tonight. So let's
we could do that.
Play the clip, Trey, and
Studs and duds.
All right, my stud is the Edmonton Elks president, former teammate of mine and Hall of Fame. I believe he's a Hall of Famer, CFL, Chris Morris, welcoming back Dwayne Mandrusiak, the long time equipment manager of the Edmonton Eskimos. He was released by, I believe at the time was head coach, GM, Brock Sunderland during COVID, right before he was to achieve his 50th season with the Eskimos. It was before the name change, or just about the time they did the name change. It was met with a lot of public negativity. And when you talk about, what happened in Edmonton to that franchise from just before COVID to probably most recently as last year when Coach Jones was fired, this was one of the tips of the iceberg for the old faithful in Edmonton. When Dwayne was fired and for no real reason at all, it really rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. And from players like myself, former players, to coaches, the amount of support for Dwayne, to a board of governors that just wasn't listening to bring him back to right the wrong, had fallen on deaf ears until Chris Morris, the new president of football operations for the Edmonton Elks, stepped up to the plate, rehired Dwayne. You see him in the middle there, flanked by his two sons, Mackenzie and Matt, whom, when I played for the Eskimos, they were little boys.
Those are Dwayne's sons?
Those are Dwayne's sons.
Dwayne was not a tall man, but he's got some big boys there.
Yeah, so Mackenzie on the left there, he's a firefighter, and Matt, I think he's investments. But yeah, they both worked with their dad as equipment managers. They helped out from when they were little boys. It was a family affair. To have him back with the organization is a huge thing. So he's not. I don't know if he's hired as an equipment manager, but it's an ambassador and historian for the team. So I think it's a fantastic role for him. The other thing too, if you see there, they've got the sign. Once an Eskimo, always an Eskimo. And not only is my stud Chris Morris for bringing Dwayne back, but the speech that he gave at the press conference, not shying away, and basically, to paraphrase, you could find it online if you want to look for it, but basically Chris Morris saying, listen, since he got here, the reference to the Eskimo name has always been met with slam doors and shame and whispers. He's like, we will no longer hide that name from the history books. We will no longer look at it with shame. We're going to look at the Eskimo name and its place in the franchise's history as the beacon that it was for the CFL when everybody wanted to go to the Eskimos, and it was one of the most winning franchises, and it will no longer be looked on as a shameful thing. And I thought, you know what? We talk about all this stuff, and I think I know your dud where it's going, that's going on in the world. There is a line, and it's a fine line between what's right and what's wrong, and there's a fine line between what's respectful and disrespectful, especially when we talk about Indigenous relations. But I do believe in this case, I think he handled it well. It was not an attack. He didn't say we're bringing back the name, but he said we cannot look at this part of our history where we won so many championships. We've done so much. We were the leading stalwart franchise in the CFL, and we can't look at that in shame. And I love it. So that's
I love it too. And I'll tell you what, I get that the world evolves and changes are going to be made, and I'm okay with that. What I'm not okay with is thoughtless virtue signaling that doesn't benefit anybody. The Edmonton Eskimos were a football club that were founded in the early 1900s under different standards and different rules of political correctness than we have today. They're a proud organization, and they should not back down from anything. In fact, for those that want to take pride in the fact that they evolved and changed their name, great. I know a lot of people don't necessarily appreciate that. I don't like how it was done or how it was signaled. But I'll tell you what, the way that Chris Morris handled that nuanced situation shows true leadership, a guy that truly respects the former Eskimo and now Elk organization, and also gets why they made the change. Dude, that was a strong move on Chris Morris's part. He was also, I played against him a ton. I was in Eskimos camp as a rookie. I was drafted to the Eskimos. I just love that move. I think everything about that just represents class. And I hope we're going to see a bit of a resurgence of our, although they're our rivals here in Calgary, I would love to see a resurgence of that program under great leadership like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
My dad. So we're going to get into, this is something I just came across today, and it ties into this a little bit, but this is an example of us doing it wrong. The story starts off where in British Columbia, in their provincial parks, they're actually closing it off to non-Indigenous members. They've been playing around with it for the last couple of years, and I'll get into why here in a second. But last year, like Joffrey Lakes Provincial Park, last year had a 60-day restriction of non-Indigenous persons. This year, it is 100 days where non-Indigenous persons are banned from the park. That's basically the entire summer long. A couple of years ago, I was at that park. My wife and I and my kids, we went to this beautiful little beach, only to have game wardens come up and say, listen, guys, it's fine that you're here. You didn't know. You're not welcome here. Get off. And which just blew my mind because it's provincial park land. But the fact of the matter is apparently this is being kind of a ploy with the Indigenous because they still are battling to get treaty rights or to define which lands are titled treaty and things like that. But when I look at what's going on in our country right now, we've got people divided politically. We've got people divided by where they live in the country. We've got the West showing some serious interest in separating from Canada, saying, let's just blow this whole thing up and start from scratch because we can do it. My problem here is not with the Indigenous people. It is with the lack of strong leadership that we have in this country on how we address these problems. Is the way to handle issues between natives and non-natives in this country to ban each other from each other's land? Chevy, no. I think we miss a prime opportunity here to say, let's take every provincial park in BC and let's make it an Indigenous theme for the year. Let's have shows every night. Let's have fireworks. Let's have events. Let's have drum circles. Let's have shacks set up. Let's do something to engage the culture so that Canadians can start coming together to understand where we came from. We just brought in the King of England, for goodness sake, right? To give a parliamentary speech, just as tokenism. But it is a reminder of where Canada came from. If we keep pushing against each other and saying that the Indigenous belong here, the settlers belong here, new immigrants belong here. If we don't bring everybody together, things are never going to change in this country. We're just going to keep getting more and more divided. I challenge BC to find a leader like your Chris Morris with the Edmonton Elks to find a way to embrace our past and bring us together moving forward. I'm sick of the division. That's my dud. Yeah. I'll leave it there.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. I mean, I didn't read the article. I'm kind of scanning it now, and some of what I'm seeing is there's some reason to it, for the Indigenous peoples of those lands to reconnect.
Because it's a negotiating ploy, right? It's part of the negotiation, not a ploy. It's a negotiating tactic to get. But the problem is, and what I see these days is people don't. When people do consume news, they don't consume the news, they consume the headlines. And the headlines become quite divisive. And people react. And that's where that emotion comes. And that's where there's no type of discussion. And so I agree. Like, I think I don't use the word stupid often, but I think it's stupid that we're doing these sorts of things, kind of knowing the outrage that it causes. Take this down to your kid's school. And if you're having racial problems at your school, now let's segregate that school and you're not allowed to interact. Does that make things better? And I'm not blaming the Indigenous, although they're the ones starting it, and it is a negotiating ploy. I'm blaming weak leadership at the provincial level for not putting in, for doing, I believe they're the ones doing the lazy work to divide us and not doing the hard work of finding a way to bring all Canadians, everyone that was born on this land under that flag together. And even if people weren't born here, people that are new to this country, they want to experience the wonderful lands.
I did it. So a few weeks ago, I think I mentioned to you, the CFD hosted an Indigenous camp. We did a training camp for Indigenous peoples from the different reservations and urban Indigenous in Calgary to give them an experience what firefighters' skills were, basically to encourage some more Indigenous participation. It was one of the more fantastic experiences I've had. Giving an opportunity for people that might not have the opportunity normally, and it was great. To do what again? What was the opportunity? To participate in the fire service, to look at it as a career that they may have an opportunity to apply for, kind of a recruiting. And it was honestly, it was a fantastic experience. The one thing I couldn't tell, who was Indigenous. So if I went to this park and they're trying to turn away non-Indigenous people,
how do they do it? Yeah.
How do you do it? Are you going to ask someone? Well,
they'll do the same thing they did test. They'll walk up and ask for you to see your card or
and I think that's just wrong. I think you're asking people to prove their ethnicity now. There's something that goes against the basic charters of rights
in Canada.
Yeah. So the only way you could do that, because Sheldon, I'll tell you what, you look more quote unquote, I don't know what if someone would say Indigenous than some of the people that were at this camp that are Indigenous. I might as well even. You can't tell. So to turn people away, like you said, and having them to prove their ethnicity, for me, that's where it's wrong. And that's why
to me, it's not the point of how they have to do it. It's the point that's even under consideration right now.
I agree.
There's got to be a better solution, and we need stronger minds coming up with better ideas and better policies and practices. Because like you said, there's a lot of things on the right that you don't like. That is just, it looks like virtual signaling on the right, and it's just stupid. It doesn't. This is a case where all this is going to do is drive us further apart, and that's where I'm going to leave it.
Yeah,
and in fact, I'll tell you what, Chev, I'm not sure what to do here. I think we had a couple more topics, but
we said we'd bring young Trey on. Can we hit Trey for 10 minutes? Because I mean, he had a day too, right? And we wanted to give him some space. You mentioned it. We teased it. how do you want to throw this up? Hey, Trey, welcome to the show.
How's it going, boys?
Good, Trey. So Trey is obviously our young producer here that's keeping the trains running on time on this show. Today he was off, as I think a lot of you guys know. He's a college golf athlete here with the Calgary Dinos, off on his second tournament of the year. Trey, where were you at today, and how did it go for you?
I was at Delacour, the Canal at Delacour Golf Course. It's not far from Calgary. It's 15 minutes maybe on the northeast side. And I was playing in the Alberta Open qualifier today.
Is that a college tournament, or is that the actual Alberta Open?
No. You have to qualify for the Alberta Open. There's a few of the best golfers in the province get automatically qualified. And then, the rest of us have to qualify. So today there was about, maybe 40 guys, and they took the top 10. And then they also had a joint qualifier with the men's amateur, which is for all the best amateurs, so no pros.
So let's get into Trey's day. Let's get into Trey's day. So Trey, you were golfing. It wasn't going exactly the way you wanted to go. But then something happened. Fill in the folks. Let's get this train going. I want to know where Trey's dilemma is, and maybe Sheldon and I could give you some fatherly advice.
Didn't play great. I thought I played okay for 14 or 15 holes, and maybe struggled on the other 4 or 5. When I got to the 18th hole today too, I told myself I wouldn't check the leaderboard all day unless I thought I needed to make a birdie. And so I figured the guys in my group were about the same as me. And I checked the leaderboard, and the butterfly started to hit when I saw, I was going to qualify if I made like a par or probably even a bogey. And so, I felt the pressure for sure on the 18th hole there, and snap hooked one pretty hard left onto the next hole. And when we finished the hole, we got into scoring, and may have found some scandalous work by somebody in my group with their scorecard. And I did something. I did something today that I didn't think I'd ever do before, and actually use the rules officials. So we had a discussion with our group, and it was interesting for sure. Did
it come out in your favor?
No, it did not go in our favor. Unfortunately, we had already signed the scorecards until we noticed the mistake, and so there was really nothing we could do.
We didn't go down without a fight. I don't want to sound like too much of a crybaby here. You just hate to see, with putting it nicely, you just hate to see cheaters sometimes ruin things for myself and a few other people. I hear you. I got some fatherly advice already on this one. Like, I think I got the gist of it already. Some things untoward or maybe questionably happened towards the end of the tournament, which never happens in sports. You've never seen an NHL or NFL game, CFL game come down to the ruling of an official. Trey, I'm going to throw it back to you on this one. This one hurt because it was your second tournament of the year. And you know what? You were probably wronged. It probably came out the wrong way, not in your favor. But you know the old adage of never leave it in the hands of the officials. I'm going to question you about one thing. You're there on the 18th hole, and you decided to check to see if you needed a birdie. Now, you check the leading board. You're like, oh my God, I got to go. Did that help your play?
No. I figured in my head that I was doing well, and I probably didn't need to, but the devil always wins. So it did, and it was probably a mistake because I made just an absolute mess of the 18th hole. You guys would have been embarrassed.
So I would have been embarrassed. I wouldn't have been embarrassed because I've been there before and I've done that. I think Chevy's done that before too, I'm sure. But I think if there's a lesson out of this thing is things are going great. There's going to be a point where you start like rising above the game and you don't feel the pressure, or you have the techniques to deal with the pressure in different ways. In this case, the game of golf, yes, it is a leaderboard and only so many guys get in, and that's rough when only 1 in 4 get in. But this might have been a time just to focus in on old Trey and just take a second, take a deep breath, a little bit of visualization, see that tee shot, not going on to the hole over there, but going to the one that you're aiming at up there, right? Just take a little bit of time, breathe deep, and focus on what you want.
So can I ask a question? Because, you know, I'm not much of a golfer. Is checking the leaderboard the equivalent of mentioning the word shutout when your team is up 3-0 in hockey, or you know, the equivalent of Al Michaels talking about how great the kicker is just before he shanks the game winner? Is that kind of the same thing?
I think it's looking over your shoulder in the 400 at the Olympics. How close are these guys? I'm getting tired. Are they catching up to me? And then, you know, you start changing your form and the way you're
and they pass you over the other shoulder.
Yeah. I mean, some people are like that for sure. The superstitions kick in, but for me, I thought it wasn't going to bother me, and yeah, it truly did, and it maybe is due to I haven't played a tournament or a competitive round of golf in 8 months, so there might be some rust or something, but yeah. Yeah, your mind is crazy. It plays tricks on you, and I believed all day I was never going to check the leaderboard, and it wouldn't bother me, and I didn't really feel nervous at all. And then at the moment where I thought I wasn't going to be nervous is the moment I was, and it just hit me like a wave. And yeah, I felt like I couldn't feel my hands. I was sweaty.
Yeah.
I felt all
you know what, Trey? You kind of sound like me at the beginning of the show talking about that bag of chips, trying to avoid it.
Yes.
And just like I'm not going to do it, and telling people you're not going to do it, and then the guilt that sets in after you do the thing. What you have to do, Trey, is release yourself of that guilt. So for me, that bag of chips is in the past. I took a deep breath. It's all about the show. It's all about tomorrow. It's all about the choices I make going forward. You learn from it, right? We're not going to look at the leaderboard again. You're going to get on the next course. You're going to play with a foursome. You're going to make sure the scores are right. No one's signing the card and submitting it if things aren't right. And you're not going to check the leaderboard. You're going to take deep breaths. You're going to picture your success. You're not going to be stick handling in the sand, like you said, and you're going to be back on top. That's what's going to happen. That's what Sheldon and I can offer you. Real concrete examples how to get your game to the next level. So eat the bag of chips, enjoy that you did it, and tomorrow's going to be a new day.
It's just keep in mind I'm not going to drag this out, but just keep in mind the difference of your approach from looking over your shoulder, right? Is you're in the clutch time. The difference between looking over your shoulder versus staying focused on the prize in front. It doesn't matter because there's nothing you can do to control anybody else's score, only your own score. Yep. Stay focused on the prize. The rest of it is noise. Sometimes it'll work in your favor and you will make the cut. Sometimes you won't. And both are okay. Don't start messing with your own head on it.
Can I say something? Can I give a serious piece of advice here? Like I was being kind of silly with the chips, but
I still feel like it's serious though.
It's a good analogy, but this is actually what I really think. So when I used to go to training camp, we used to get a lot of kickers come in, right? And I always helped the young guys and even snappers that came from my job, but there was always kickers, and I would always watch. And, you know, if there was like 2 or 3 kickers in camp and they'd be kicking, my advice was, listen, when you're at practice today, just worry about your kicks. Because when you go home at night, you're going to think about your kicks, you're going to evaluate them in your head, and then you're going to get better and you're going to improve. And let's say you do 10 kicks in a day or 20 kicks, you bring home 10 or 20 kicks, and you got to manage those in your head, good or bad. But if you start taking your 20 kicks and then you take that guy's 20 kicks and you're trying to figure out how many did he do well? Was he 10 for 10? Was he 8 for 10? And was I? And then the other guy, now you brought home 60 kicks that you're trying to worry about. And you're trying to figure out where you match up your performance versus the guys next to you. And you remember you said the mind is a messed up thing. So the real thing to do, even if you saw the leaderboard, is really to try and focus on you and the next performance. And that's literally like golfing is very much like long snapping or kicking, any closed skill where you have to have an approach. It's the same approach. It's the same deep breath. It's the same visualization, and it's the same control over your own performance. Flushing out everyone else's performance is part of the practice it requires to get to the next level. Not just the swing, not just the putt, but actually blocking out what everyone else does to focus on your 18 holes of golf versus 96 holes of golf with the guys ahead of you, or however many guys you compare yourself to. So that's my serious one, but I did like the bag of chips.
I feel like Brett Gardner should be looking for a replacement here soon. I just got like a free 5-minute sports psychology lesson there. Thanks, Chevy.
Yeah, we'll do it offline too whenever you want. I've done a lot of that. So guys, what do you say? That was a good one, or do we have more to talk about?
I like the old great coach of yours once said, that's a great one to end on. Trey, thanks for bringing that on. You get my adrenaline going, following you throughout the day. And again, and taking zero shame in having a collapse on the 18th hole. You still could have made it. It didn't happen. You will always learn more from a failure, a temporary failure, than you will from a success. Let's say it worked out in your favor today. You didn't learn a thing. Today, you can actually take this in, talk about guys that have been there before, and just realize, do not look over your shoulder in the last 50 meters of the race. Just keep focused. You don't know what they're doing. Doesn't matter what they're doing. It only matters what you're doing. Trey, thanks for telling that story, man. It actually takes a lot of guts to come up there and say, I tanked the 18th hole. I love it.
Yeah. Thanks, boys. Appreciate it.
And guys, for all of you, I think we are going to wrap it up on that note. We got a lot of things covered here today. Thanks for joining us as always, and kind of going through, helping us celebrate the Oilers' great win tonight, and reliving the glory of our golf night, and helping young Trey along, because by the end of the season, man, we're going to see some great things from him on the leaderboards in the college ranks here in Western Canada. So as always, you can find us every Tuesday night here on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and wherever else you can find our podcast the next day. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you guys all here next week.